As a gay adolescent growing up in the early 90s, we had many ways to make sure that we were safe just to be ourselves. Since the 1970s, these being called safe places. Being identified by a gold or a blue star, a sticker that was in the top left corner of a window. In the early 2000s, this logo was replaced by this. And to avoid unwanted detection, our signs and locations had to be constantly changed and switched out because we were being hunted. This is why we created safe places. And how did it go from a place of safety, equality, and inclusion, from it being completely hijacked and turned into the all-knowing cancel culture that we know? And how has this created our beige society that we currently live in? It is not illegal being gay in Iowa, but religiously, it is frowned upon because we are in the Bible Belt. But when your culture is targeted for HIV and AIDS your entire life, and 15 years before you're even born, you are known as a disease spreader, a 43-year blight on humanity and society. Unwanted, we became a different type of social outcast, remembering the 2.5-year decade fight for acceptance. All conversations used to be how we can join society. Without hatred, without backlash, just equal to be ourselves. However, here in 2025, we see a different scenario playing out. A safe place got turned into safe space. And within this, a cancel culture started happening. And this has gone way too far. For the past 15 years, conversations went from acceptance to a hostile takeover. When did it become okay for our culture to become as hateful and bigoted as our opponents? When did the underdog become the oppressors? And this is a real legitimate question, my family. Destroying somebody else's life and career because they live and think differently? You're suppressing their rights and their amendments, the very things that we have been battling for centuries. But it's okay for you to do it now, just not them, right? Well, this backwards ideological way of thinking has been seen many times before. We all heard of Nazi Germany, North Korea, China. The moment you take somebody else's rights and freedoms, it's the moment that you're going to be next in line for that to have happened to you. The second it's acceptable to tell somebody that it's not okay for them to think or speak the way they do out loud, is when they're coming for you next. You're willfully giving up your First Amendment, your freedom of speech, all by hating on somebody else. So remember, denying a person, a group, a culture, their rights to speak out about their beliefs is completely wrong. Suppressing somebody else's right not to argue is not a conversation. It's withholding their rights. And you cannot defend your argument using the same hatred as somebody else and your opponent. I've watched this rainbow culture get hijacked and suppressed and used in other areas of life to cover up other parts of the culture and what's really happening behind the scenes. So you must question, why was it suddenly okay for us to be gay out loud and proud in public? Why are we suddenly allowed to marry? And why is it suddenly okay for underdeveloped children to have genitalia removal, to have all these hormones and their identity completely changed just because we think a child has their mind made up? I know 30s and 40-year-olds who don't have their minds made up. And why is the willing ignorance being taught in schools? Remember, this is my culture, blinded by the pure sparkle of acceptance. A 20-year coup of corruption. And how did this start? It started with your complacency, the illusion of control. This safe space argument suppresses the rights of all others, and it is starting to take yours away next. Be careful, it's happening right now. For my personal thinking on oppositions isn't, I hate you, so I'm never going to hear a thing that you say, and I don't want to even look at you. No, not at all. You should not be this way. I want to know what drives another person to think that the way they think and to come out with an outcome the opposite of mine with the same information. So what are we missing? There's usually a third component here, and this is empathy. Shutting down the rant in your mind just long enough to obtain the information needed. The information that makes sense of the larger problem. You know, life. So I feel it is a setup. We are all arguing over semantics when there's bigger things happening around the world at the moment. So let's think about it like this. Words and speech is an art form. And like all art, it is always subjected to its viewers' life experiences. Filtered and ciphered through culture, family, friends, personal relationships. All things for the brain to personalize it specifically for them. Thus making everything subjected through one's own experiences. And yes, this is still including your words and your speech. Which means the dynamics of a safe space and a safe place is impossible to obtain. You cannot define this area. But in 2025, what really is a safe place? What really is the safe space? Where only similar people and ideas within a culture can exist? Canceling out all other viewpoints and ideas that don't line up within the group? Well, baby, that is textbook fascism, bigotry at its finest. You let the oppressors turn you into them, while they sit back on their front porch watching you do their grunt work. All by making cancel culture feared. So now no one speaks their truth for fear of offending anybody, any shape or delicate flower that happens to be sandy by. Again, this is willingly wiping out your freedom of speech. And you're next. Well, my dears, our whole entire culture is currently the #1 offensive thing in America. And secretly around the world, the entire rainbow family always has been. So you better let others speak their mind and speak their truths, no matter if it don't line up with yours. Because you hurt us all by not letting different opinions in. You hurt the growth process. You hurt us learning that, oh, we really don't want to be like that, so now we're going to learn how to be better and different. You cannot have these epiphanies and these aha moments in life without the opposite opinion. So need you remember, words are just a way to express and communicate. They are not good or bad, just a teaching tool. And they only allow the power that you allow them to have. So true acceptance and empathy is allowing all sides their fair debate. For all voices and opinions matter in the greater picture of life. This is our First Amendment at its finest, the freedom of speech. And if you're not careful, it will be taken away with all the other rights that we have. And I don't want to live in a beige society. Not again, and I know you don't either.